Welcome back to the Lanterne Rouge Cycling Podcast, presented by Zwift. Got some interesting updates from us personally related to Zwift in a second. It's the Pyrenees Tirreno-Adriatico recap doubleheader. You might look at the results of these two stages and be like, boring. Nah, there's some funny things and some weird things that happened during both of those races. I guess that's why people listen to the recaps, because we watch every race in full. Mention our show partners. With Tour of Autopia is on at the moment, and I guess my journey to being the only man to defeat Pog, it gets closer. I checked today. I'm down, I think, 2.5 kilos since the Zwift deal started, and since we've been just flying on Zwift. So that's ahead of my schedule. Pogacar's scared. I guess, is Kung scared of you, Benji?
I'm not so certain that Kung is already scared of me, but that's something for 2037 for me.
Time for Tirreno-Adriatico, Stage 5. From Cefro to Fermo. It's another hilly circuit, but this time more suited to a breakaway. It really reminded me, this parcours, of a bit of a lighter version of the Slovenia stage in the Giro last year and the stage that Campenaerts won ahead of Reykjavik. But this finishes uphill to Fermo. Some nasty short climbs near the finish. 2.2 Ks, 8.5%, the Fermo Madonna Dette, and 3.2 Ks, 6% to finish. But they're all up and down, steep, nasty pinches in them, bad road surfaces, technical descents, and Pogacar's still in the ascendancy. But a good break went, Benji, with Benjamin Thomas.
Yeah, Benjamin Thomas was in that breakaway. A rider that has been performing quite well for the entirety of the race season so far. And it actually didn't start that easily, that breakaway. We had so many attacks on that first climb from Marc Soler already at the start of the race. Arendsman, Narvaez, we had the likes of Pinot attacking, Tejada, Sepp Kuss in the attack, Aramburu as well. But in the end, like you said, not exactly those riders in that breakaway. It was the group that included Benjamin Thomas, Xandro Meurice, also the likes of Barguil was in that group, a few Aolo riders, some other riders in there as well. And I don't have the list here, but you have to believe me, those were the riders. Yeah, Velasco, Nelson Oliveira, and so forth. But that group stayed along for quite a while, and it had a gap that was not necessarily the largest. So I was thinking, okay, Peloton's keeping this at 2-3 minutes. What is going to happen? Because these last two hills are steep, so a lot of time can be taken back on those final hills. And it went up a bit towards the middle of the stage, then over the Monte Urano towards that Capo d'Arco climb, where we expected the race to start opening up a bit. That is with about roughly 30k to go, that Capo d'Arco climb, already with steep percentages, like you mentioned. And that's where we already started seeing Arkea making moves in the breakaway. The gap was then 2 minutes 16 or so at the start of that climb, very steep section, and that's where Rousseau started launching Barguil. And there was one man that could follow, right? Benjamin Thomas, but it didn't last that long, right? That two-man move?
They sort of didn't relay properly together. I think if you're Warren Barguil, why would you work with Thomas on the climb? You know this finishes uphill with steep gradients. You basically just want to tire him out. Thomas a tank on the flat and shallow gradients. So it's not really a big incentive for Barguil, who I think knew he was the best uphill in this finish, to attack really early. And it gets into a bit of a circuit. I think in the finish they might do 1.5 circuits. And yeah, Meurice actually on the last sort of steep extended climb started pacing really hard. No attack, just a steady pacing in a group with Oliveira. Who else was in there? He pretty much dropped everyone in the break except Simone Velasco, Thomas, and Barguil. And we saw Thomas losing the wheel a little bit, sliding through the corners. We saw Warren Barguil moving up, overlapping his back wheel, eventually hitting it, going clear, and we knew a rider of this quality who's looking good, who actually hasn't won. His last World Tour race win was in 2017, nearly 5 years ago. He has won French national champs and Tour de Limousin last year, but he looks in fine form again, and from a breakaway uphill finish, no one's bringing him back. Barguil won easily in the end, 10 seconds over Murasa, who probably, I don't know what his plan was. He kind of led Barguil. I don't have a rationale for that. Belasco was good for Astana. Tomar cracked completely, but yeah, so that's great to see Arkea win in Tirreno-Adriatico and Total win in Paris-Nice. So that's the French Pro Conti double header. But the big news of the day, in the peloton behind, we have 8Ks to go. They finished this short climb, the Fermo Madonna d'Ete, I think, and little punchy climb. Remco attacks over the top of it. He's got Pogacar in the wheel and Jonas there. They've gapped Theo Gegenhardt. And, I mean, what was the rationale for that attack, Benji? Like, is it too late at that point? He's going straight into a descent with those two who are just going to keep his wheel.
I don't think it's a very effective attack at that point in the race, and I wasn't expecting it to go anywhere, really. Did you?
No. Like, he's just not going to drop those guys off the wheel. And we're so close to the finish here. I think particularly how punchy those two are. We're coming up to the last climb. Yeah. We're coming up a quick descent, right-hand turn into about 6Ks to go for the break, so maybe it's a little bit more for the peloton. Remco's leading the group. He's taken over from Jonas, who had paced on the descent a little bit. And Remco, we didn't see it initially. They had to show the replay, overshoots this right-hand turn into the climb. And he has Pogacar and Jonas on his wheel going into it. And these guys are so used to following each other, they have to lock up their brakes, turn around, and go back. And so, questions immediately. Was it not signposted? What's going on? How has this happened? Remco leading into the corner. Has he freaked out again? What did you think had happened? Like, what do you make of this whole shambles?
Well, initially I was panicking because when the gap was 2 minutes, I had put a bet on Pogacar, and he was in the wheel of Remco, going the wrong way, which is not a great sight to see. But when it comes to my opinion on what happened, we saw that the there's this little line attached to like 2 light poles at the side of the road to like say, don't go here. But it was so high up that the riders can't see that if they're looking at in front of them on the road. It was properly high, like human head height, basically. And it's the height where you can literally ride under with your bicycle. And therefore, I think it was hard to see that. The person that was there, the signal person, wasn't also showing it that well. But on the other hand, it looked like Remco was braking the second he was already seeing the corner. And I feel like he reacted too late to knowing it was going to the right. I don't think he knew that it was to the right the entire way. But I think he knew it before he came to the corner, but just panicked in the moment and continued straight. Because he was looking at the area that he needed to go in when passing that corner, and he was braking at that time. But it was very clear the second after for me that when it comes to turning back, Vingegaard was just following Remco, Pogacar as well. They went the wrong way there as well. But they were much faster in turning around and being back on the correct road. So I think that's where you can see that Remco's panic technique isn't there compared to Pogacar and Vingegaard.
Pogacar was like, no problem, just straight back. It was crazy. They were straight back into the Gegenhardt group and didn't lose any time. Of course, we didn't get anything televised of the rest of this group for the rest of the stage, just about unfortunately. But I've looked at it closely. I think he's either seen the corner late or he has just completely freaked out that he was carrying too much speed into the corner. I don't think he thought the whole time they were going straight. When you look at the camera angle from the motorbike rather than the helicopter, you can see his eyes as he's going through the corner looking up the road, and he was already taking a narrower line into it compared to Vingegaard and Pogacar, who are wider. You could see they were already turning in their bikes. Pogacar was lucky not to crash into the back wheel of Jonas. And this reminds me a lot of what happened in Tour of Denmark, or the PostNord Denmark Rund 2021 Stage 3. You might not have seen it. He was in a break with Søren Kragh Andersen. They had a very similar turn. It was a right-hand turn, and Remco just went straight. He was in front of Pedersen trying to follow SKA. He just went straight. He refused to tip the bike in. And I think something similar has happened here. He thought, I'm carrying too much speed, and he's just panicked, locked up, and gone straight. And I don't know if that was the same in Lombardia crash or whatever, but he's lucky it was just a road ahead of him, I guess, here. That's my take on it. Maybe he thought he was going straight, but I doubt it. And that's why I found the attack so curious, Benji, because he was putting all this pressure on himself. I mean, did he even need to be leading into the descent going that fast?
Well, I think if he wants to put enough time on Pogacar to defend on that mountain stage, he needs to try something from further than on the last uphill at this finish line, personally. And that's why I think they go that early and put pressure. I'm not sure the pressure on that descent, like you mentioned, is necessarily the right thing to do, but if you don't hold the gap to the people behind you, what was the point in making that move in the first place? And the question then is, was that the right moment to attack? Should he have gone earlier on the previous climb and not necessarily just before the top happened there? And that's an option, I'd argue, where you could say he could have done that to be able to rest up a bit more in the descent and not have to go so eager in that descent. But I don't mind that necessarily. I like when Remco goes early. But my question now to you is like, we've seen this quite a few times now. You're mentioning Denmark, which was more that overshooting the corner and not necessarily going the wrong way. We've seen Brussels Cycling Classic last year, where Remco was together with Amy de Gent, Gilbert, and Tosh van der Sande and so forth in a group. And Gilbert and Tosh van der Sande, I think, went the wrong way, while Remco and Amy de Gent went the right way around like a roundabout or an intersection. I'm not 100% sure which side it was, what kind of situation it was, but they needed to go to the left and the other guys went to the right for a bit. I think that's what happened, basically. And in that race, we had a situation where Remco benefits of some other people going the wrong way, and therefore is able to try and ride Amy de Gent off his wheel in the final few kilometers. And after the race, there were a few different sides of the story necessarily, where UCI will always take the side of, oh, in the rules it says that riders need to know the parkour, which is the easy way out for UCI, of course. But when it comes to the riders, Remco was mixed about it. He said, I don't like winning like this, but I had to go through because I could win a victory like this. And then he also said, then I was somewhat surprised that they went the wrong way, because we have briefings about the parkour and we also have the GPS computer that says it. So I personally wonder if he'll have the same opinion now that it happened to him.
He eventually did get back on. We didn't see much of the rest of the peloton. I don't think he, which is really unfortunate. And it is a feature of, unfortunately, the Italian races. They focus on the break. Like the guys coming in 7th, way too long when we're trying to figure out what's happening behind. Pogacar actually finished in a group of Vingegaard, Mas, Evenepoel, Hindley, Landa. They dropped Pinot, Pozzo, but GC largely unchanged except for Geoghegan Hart. Geoghegan Hart lost time, Benji.
Yep, he did.
And
it is a serious amount as well. I think it was like 33 seconds in total, so not a great day for Geoghegan Hart. Well, less than 33. I was looking the wrong way. It's 29 seconds, so not a great ride for him today. And I'm actually impressed that Remco missed that corner. Then Ballerini dropped from the breakaway, helped him out into chasing that group back, and he came towards that group just when the climb started, and he was able to still finish in the group with Tadej Pogacar at this finish. Perhaps Pogacar didn't go all out because he knew other people went the wrong way, or do you think that he's not so happy-hearted?
We'll never know. We'll never know. I think come on, the race is on. He's surely launching it. He probably was like, break is gone. I don't want to get any more time. I don't need to. I'm going to win on Carpena anyway. Miguel Angel Lopez lost time, and it's still looking like the Pogacar show. He hasn't put the race completely to bed yet. He's still only 9 seconds ahead of Evenepoel, and 43. Aronsman's still there, by the way, Thymen Aronsman in 3rd. He lost a bit of time today, but not a huge amount. Vingegaard in 4th now, 45. Lopez loses time, but still moves up. He's on a minute back. Tomorrow we have I guess it's the Queen Stage, but there's no mountaintop finish in this race. 216 Ks, 2 ascents of Monte Carpena, 6.2 Ks at 9.6%, with a descent in the middle between them, and then they go and do it again, and then a descent to the finish in Carpena. A little uphill kick to the finish, I think about a 50, 75 meter elevation climb. Pog or break?
I think Pog. Come on, he'll want to win the mountain stage in the Tirreno. Come on, do it for us, UAE. We want to see a GC fight here and not necessarily a breakaway going for the victory here. Although, like, will they want to control 170 kilometers of flat/rolling hills? That is where the question lies. But there's a lot of riders that might be willing to give it a try for their stage, even if they're not UAE. It might not be the most clever idea, but what are you going to do? Are you just not going to try win the mountain stage then in Tirreno? I don't know. When it comes to Carpena, I think it was meant to be ridden in Copia Bartali last year. That 1 week race roughly in, was it March or something? And it did not ride Carpena because of weather and so forth. So I'm happy that we've got it on the profile now and don't have weather issues there. It's a very selective climb. So I expect stuff to happen there. And not only, like, we're talking about the Monte Carpena being the climb there, but the first time we go over it, like, it starts climbing already a good 5 kilometers before we get to that start of the climb. And that's where I'm like, okay, that's an extra 5 kilometers that are not really categorized as climbing, but they're significantly climbing, I dare to say.
Yeah.
I am curious if that final descent will influence something. For example, if somebody is able to ride away on a climb, will they be able to catch up with said rider and so forth? I'm going to go with the, Pogacar is likely going to win this, but who is going to get second if it's a GC battle? And I think I'm going to point at Vingegaard there.
Pello Bilbao wins this stage, descent.
Yeah,
I think
good point.
I think he might win this stage. He's climbing well in Valenciana. He's my outsider. Make sure we get money on before we put the pot up, Benji. But yeah, Pog has to be the favourite. I'd be surprised if I saw anything else in the markets. So hopefully it's explosive. Hey, I'd love for Remco and Jonas to take it to Pogacar. Wouldn't that be a show? It'd be great to see that. But we'll hold our breath. Maybe Pogacar doesn't want to risk everything on the descent finish. Who knows? But I hope you enjoyed the podcast today. Let us know what you thought of the Remco corner mishap. We'll be back with the mountain double header tomorrow. Big day, Super Saturday of pro cycling. Thanks to Zwift, as always, our title sponsor. We'll be heading on to the Tour of Autopia Stage 3 now. We'll see you tomorrow. Ciao.